Hi everyone, thank you for joining today and thank you for joining our masterclass on the improvement register today. Just a reminder that please feel free to pop any questions into the chat. I'll get to them towards the end of the session. Really would be interested to get some conversation happening about how you as an individual in your organisation manage your improvements and non-conformances. So that's essentially what we are going to be talking about today, is just really focusing on that continuous improvement cycle and how we can really hone in on those non-conformances, make sure we do we look at what those causes are, get to the root and have an action plan moving forward, and how Logic can then help us manage that action plan as well. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today, and I'd also like to pay my respect to elders past and present. Okay, so let's look at a couple of key features of the Logic Improvement Register. It is that centralised repository of all the improvements in the organisation, and it's permission-based. So we're never going to be at risk of someone seeing things that are not related to them. We can assign it to specific teams or specific individuals. It allows us and prompts us for that root cause analysis and the corrective actions. So we really do, when we use Logic to manage that improvement cycle, we really do get into that. Look at what it actually did cause this, what was the effects, and how are we going to correct those. We also analyse what system or process failed in our organisation, and if you do have the business rules add-on in your registers, so it's only clients that have been with us for a really long time that probably don't. But if you do have that automated business rules for delegation, you can manage the delegations, notifications, and the security for that particular improvement or non-conformance. You can also rate it against your SAC scale. So it's essentially, again, measuring that impact and how the organisation needs to treat that moving forward. You've got the workflow, of course, which delegates that task from when we've got that item reported right up until where it closes. And if you do have the response protocol feature attached to your or added in your platform, you can also set up those pre-programmed responses. So in the case of a non-conformance, what are the steps we need to take to analyse what that looks like in our organisation? Automatic emails, reminders for overdue tasks, and with the add records button, you can link any correspondence, records, photographs, reports, investigations through to the related event, and your system event history, remember, connects all of those dots. Every time someone pressed save, add something, changed a SAC rating or anything like that, it's all recorded right from the reporting up until the close stage. And then, of course, on our dashboard, we have widgets that relate to improvements and non-conformance reporting, and that allows us to, at a quick glance, be able to see some trends that might form in the organisation. You can also link your non-conformances to identify risk, which helps us or prompts us then to review whether our controls are still in place, and improvements, again, can be linked to the accreditation register as well. The benefits of using the Logic Improvement Register is that everything is organised in one central repository. Your improvement process becomes consistent because we follow the Logic workflow. It streamlines the management of the improvement, but also non-conformances. You have better visibility around the entire process of the improvement efforts. We effectively track that corrective action and how it changes or eliminates that non-conformance that happened. We simplify our reporting. Logic has really good reporting on non-conformances and improvements in the Analytics tab. We can also track our corrective and preventative actions. You can integrate the improvement register with a lot of the other business processes within Logic, and that maximises the organisation's opportunities for improvement, essentially. So just I touched on the other registers where the improvement register integrates. So any corrective actions or improvements that you identify resulting from an event can be added directly from the audit register, the compliance register, maintenance, feedback, incident and repair. So it really just gives in all of the registers where there is opportunity for us to improve or where something may have gone wrong, we have that availability. Okay, so I'm just going to switch to the platform now. Oh, sorry. And we're going to have a look at a practical example. So I've already started filling this in just by way of saving some time today. But really what we're looking at here is an incident occurred where the nurse was signed off medication during handover. There was one tablet short from the count, but the documentation was still signed off. So that incident was reported. And as part of that reported incident, the incident manager asked us to record the non-conformance and essentially establish why that happened. So, Right. So as part of the incident that's been reported, it's going through, it sits with the person that's actually done that investigation. And they've now gone on and they're starting to really have that conversation with the people that were involved and starting to look at what was the cause of why this happened. So there's a number of different ways in which we can establish that root or do that root cause analysis. But a really popular one is the 5 whys. So really starting with why did this happen and then subsequently asking those additional questions. So some of the questions that we may be asking here is, why did she sign the form even though there was a discrepancy? And when you're in that conversation and investigation, things come up like maybe she was short-staffed, maybe there wasn't enough people on shift, she had more patients than she normally has, and maybe there was an emergency and she was just really time crunched and needed to get that done. From that, then, our next question could potentially be, why was she so time constrained? And that might, again, allude to that staffing issue. It might be a policy issue. The organisation might have budget constraints. And she might not have well-trained staff that can do the Schedule A drugs. So then the question can be asked, why don't we have enough staff? So we can continue to ask those 5 questions until we essentially come to that root cause. And in this case, our root cause can be that there's a staffing issue. There is budget constraints for training. And maybe there is not enough or not a clear enough policy that directed to her what it is, what the expectations are. So there's a number of things that we can analyse in here and a number of actions that we can take effectively. But what we also need to do then is look at what system or process failed. And in this instance, it might be that she made the decision. And now we've got to go and make sure that something like this does not occur again. And that's where our corrective actions are going to come in. So what would be some of the corrective actions? For immediate action, typically what we could do is we could have a stop policy. And what I mean with that is the opportunity for her to go, no, I'm not signing this off until I resolve the issue. Even though there's a time crunch, even though there's a time pressure, just strengthen that policy to give her the confidence that she can go, I need to stop and I need to make sure that I can sign off on this. So enhancement in policy. Maybe we can strengthen, and this might not be an immediate action, but maybe we can strengthen the pool of casual staff that she can access because we had a shortage of staff. So And maybe we can consider to have better training so that there's more people that could have helped her with managing that medication register. So again, all of these things are just going to help us to improve that process. And for each of these recommended improvements here, we want to, after we finish the investigation of this non-conformance, we want to essentially add those as improvements to this register, which means that we can close that incident out because we've now gone and managed that. We've investigated and reported the non-conformance. We know what the root cause is, what essentially caused that. And we've got some recommendations in place on how we are actually going to now improve that process. So that's essentially, we've got that non-conformance, and now what we want to come in and do is take those immediate actions and those actions that we want to do over a time period and report them as related improvements as well. So we just continue to open that modal layer drawer and add all of those improvements in here. Oh, sorry. So what I want to show you as well when we report this particular item is that we can post all of this in the improvement register. When we close those other improvements off, we can essentially record whether corrective or preventative action was taken. And when we look at Logiqc and our improvement register in its entirety, and we edit all of our columns so that we have that information on hand, we can essentially determine how many in a month or in 6 months or in a year, how many improvements did we make because it was corrective or it was preventative. So it again really does our auditing program work, does our incident register work, does our repairs, maintenance work, do we notice these things before we actually have to correct them? So those are just some of the ways in which Logiqc and the improvement register is going to help organisations in that continuous improvement space. So if we go back to our just all of that will be in the spreadsheet or in the mail out to you guys, how we identified that, what some of those corrective actions are, and I'll open the floor now to any questions. So if anyone has any questions, comments, please feel free. I'm not missing anything. Yeah, Jennifer is asking if in the improvement register, is there a link back to the original source? So yeah, absolutely. Let me go back onto the platform and I'll just show you what that looks like so that you get that really clear idea. So when we look at that particular improvement or that non-conformance that we've reported, but you may need to edit your columns because everyone's visibility is not always the same. But really what we want to look for here and what column it is that we want to include is the related items column, because that then will always show you that the root of this was incident number 2023. So as I continue to, on that non-conformance then, add additional improvements, there will be more related items. So it relates to the incident that occurred, but it also relates to those systems improvements that we want to make over the short, medium and long term. Something in the chat. So if we think about our improvement register, the question is, does the task instruction or response protocol activate in the improvements? The response protocols activate in the improvement. So in that manage stage of my improvement, I have the opportunity to assign a single action or select an organisational response protocol. So if you have set up response protocols for how to manage non-conformances in the back end of your platform, they'll be available for you to pick and select from in your drop-down menu. Any other questions? Okay, if there's no more questions, I'll just highlight again. So response protocols and business rules, if you don't already have them added, they're really good add-ons because they do give us, again, that opportunity to be very specific about how things are reported and then what the subsequent actions are that we want to take. If anyone has any questions that they want to ask after the fact, please feel free to email us at customersuccess@logic.com.au. For any other queries, you remember you can also reach out to support@logic.com.au. If anyone wants to ask anything after, please feel free. But other than that, thank you very much for attending. I hope that you enjoyed the session and that improvement is that we've essentially mastered it. Have a great day, everyone, and thank you for your time.